Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us today. Let us get right into our event. Next slide, please. So let us go over some event logistics. One slide, yes. Let us go over some event logistics. You will be able to see and hear us. However, we cannot see nor hear you. You will be able to have a chance to submit your questions. I know that you have a lot of questions on this topic. So you'll be able to submit your questions in a question box. If you look on your screen, you'll see 2 chat bubbles with a question mark in there, and that is where you can post your questions at the end of our presentation. The event is being recorded and will be posted within 48 business hours on our YouTube channel. And closed captioning is available in multiple languages if you will need to make use of this service. Just look for 3 dots and select the option that says turn on, excuse me, turn on live captions. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to get right into preparing for life in Dallas, Texas. This International Student Orientation Information Session is for incoming students for spring 2022. We know that the year 2021 has brought us some unique opportunities and challenges. And so the more that we can have information to prepare ourselves to so that we don't have too many unexpected surprises, I think the better it might be for our mental health and our emotional well-being. So let us help you by sharing some practical resources and information so that you can prepare for your study here at UT Dallas. Next slide, please. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to talk about, which we know is of probably at the top of the list for most students, is housing. Where you are going to live is probably, an important thing for you to sort out when you are picking up your life and moving it to a whole different continent, a whole different country. So with housing, there are several options. The first option we want to present to you is the on-campus housing option provided here at UT Dallas. Now, it does fill up really quickly between the students that are coming in and then the students that are continuing to renew their leases for on-campus housing. So there is high demand for it. But of course, there are also benefits as well, right, as you can think of when you live on campus. Living on campus allows you to be able to be close to your classes. So for some of you who might have a little bit of a challenge making it from your home to your class, you are very close to your classes. And then there is staff available. There's housing staff that is available 24/7 there. And it's also a great way to meet friends as well. Now for spring, the housing availability is actually full at the moment from what I understand. But what we would suggest for you to do is you can monitor the on-campus housing website to see in case there are any maybe last-minute cancellations that maybe you could take advantage of. Now, in regards to housing, it does require a partially non-refundable application fee, and there are 3 different options for you to choose from. So there is University Commons, which is a more traditional dormitory-style residence, and this is typically where first-year undergraduate students live. There is also University Village, which does have unfurnished apartments. And then there is Canyon Creek Heights. There is a north one and a south one. That is the newest set of residential facility that we have here at UT Dallas. And those are furnished apartments. So if you'd like to view more pictures and find more information about the university housing and the options and the various amenities that come along with that, we suggest for you to visit their website, which is available here on the screen. A shortcut way is just go to utdallas.edu /housing, and you can get to their general website. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so when it comes to on-campus housing, I did mention, of course, some of the amenities, but let me go a little bit more into that. So I did mention that you'll be able to be close to the staff that close to your classes, and then there are some other amenities. For example, there are, as you can see in that picture right there, hopefully you can see a very beautiful pool. So there's a pool area. There is also a recreational center that you are able to reserve, and if you need to have, you know, like a get together, some kind of a gathering, maybe there's a holiday you want to celebrate, you want to have a birthday party for yourself or your friends, etc. Those things can be made available to you. And then some other amenities that come along with the on-campus housing is when you get your comment card will actually be coded to where you live on campus. So excuse me. So when you are living on campus, your comment card is basically your ID, and it's going to give you access to the specific housing that you are in. So those are just some of the amenities. Once again, if you go to utdallas.edu/housing, you can see more of what is available from the on-campus housing options for you to choose from. Next slide, please. Okay, so now let's talk about off-campus housing. For many, I would say many of our international students do utilize off-campus housing. Fortunately, there are quite a bit of options for you to choose from. Now, excuse me, there are many things to consider when you're looking for off-campus housing, right? So some of the things you want to consider is how close it is to campus, how long your commute will be, especially, you know, even if you have a car or if you don't have a car, it is something that you want to consider. What amenities does this off-campus housing provide? Some apartments will include a washer and a dryer in your unit for you to use, and then some of them may have a washer and dryer just on the facility that all the residents can use. So you have to think about those things, like what you were looking for and maybe what is the most important thing to you. As we mentioned with on-campus housing about having a pool, there are some apartments that have pools there. So for some of you, you know, that might be an important thing to get your exercise in or get some rest and relaxation. So when you find an off-campus housing, typically that would be an apartment. Then you have to look on their website and see what amenities they are offering to you. And then based on what is most important to you, then you can choose based on those factors. Another important factor is cost, right? Probably I would say that's the #1 factor on everybody's list when they're choosing off-campus housing is the cost of it, right? How much will you have to pay? Because this is going to be a monthly expense. Typically you pay, you know, your housing in monthly payments. And so it can add up at the end of the year, right? So we're going to look on the cost, which is the rent. If you are in an apartment, they typically would just call it the rent, how much your rent is going to be. And then also a part of the cost outside of the rent is you might want to consider utilities, and we'll actually talk a bit more about utilities. But utilities typically include water and light, okay? Another thing for us to think about is how big is your space. Some people may get maybe a 500 square foot apartment. Maybe some people, I would say typically a 500 square feet is probably small. It's probably going to be a 1-bedroom. And, you know, depending on if you'll have roommates or not, that could be, I would say, a decent size for just one person to live in. Some people may get a smaller space. So once again, it's just up to you and what you are looking for you to be able to choose what best suits your needs. How many tenants will be living there? So once again, you know, will you be having roommates with you? And then also something to think about is, where is your apartment located? Is it close to anything? Most of the apartments that are off campus are pretty close to restaurants, shopping, grocery stores, if you need to get stationery, etc. So I would say there's not much to worry about that. But if you're a person, maybe you like a nightlife situation, you know, maybe you want to live above a whole bunch of restaurants, if you know, if that's your thing, then there are apartment complexes that do provide that. So you would just have to, you know, research that information and make your decision. Another thing, last but not least, that is important is safety. Safety is very important. I would say generally the UT Dallas community is a safe area. Actually, if we could go back to the next slide, the previous slide. Thank you. Generally, the area, the campus is a very safe campus, and then the area surrounding it is pretty safe as well. But it always is best to do your research, because there are many different cities that are close by. UT Dallas is in the city of Richardson, but then there's also the city of Dallas that's pretty close by. There's Plano, there's Addison, there's Carrollton. So you can't just make assumptions about the safety of all places. So you want to find that information out about the particular apartment that you're looking into, and see what information you can get, crime statistics, for example. And also, I would say the appearance of the neighborhood that the apartment is located in is also a good way to tell maybe you know, how safe a place is. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so let us go back into the apartments. On the previous slide, I spoke about some amenities that your apartment may have. But once again, the only way to know for sure what your apartment does have is to look on their website and for them to tell you explicitly what is there. So in general, most apartments will include a refrigerator, which is a combination of a freezer and the refrigerator, a stove. So for those of you that like to, you know, get your cooking on, it will also typically come with an oven. So typically the stove and the oven is a combination appliance. Some apartments may also have the dishwasher, which some people may not be used to. To be honest with you, I was not used to using a dishwasher before I came to America from Jamaica. And it took me a while to use it. And I can say I'm not alone. I've heard other students say that they didn't feel like the dishwasher would do as good of a job as they could. So it took them a while to get into it. But once you learn how to use it, it saves so much time. And I'm sure you love it. So your apartment may include a dishwasher to help you wash the dishes, a microwave, I would say that's pretty standard, and a washer and dryer for your clothes. Once again, that could be within your particular apartment unit. So if you do need to wash your clothes, you can, you know, have the privacy. You don't have to share those appliances with other people. But some apartments do have maybe like a laundry room, and then the residents can go there and you can wash your clothes there. So that could be an option. Some other amenities I would say that are pretty typical are having a swimming pool. That's very standard, I would say, for most apartments I have seen. And they might have certain requirements that come along with it. They may say, you know, you can only use the swimming pool at certain times, or they might give you a wristband or something to wear so that they know that you are a resident of the community using the pool. But whatever it is, they typically have a pool, I would say. A gym, some apartments do have a small gym, a community space. And once again, much like the on-campus housing that I mentioned, where they do have like a recreational center, a lot of apartments will have a community space. It could be an indoor facility where maybe you could reserve to host an event, celebration, a party or something like that. So that would be good on the social aspect, to socialize and to maybe even meet new people. Okay, so we did talk about utilities, so let us break down a little bit more as to what is included into utilities. Once again, to really know for sure, your apartment will have to be explicit and telling you, okay, this is how it works at our complex. So we're just providing you general information so you can have an overall idea, but when you find your different apartment options, you have to ask them explicitly what comes along with you leasing an apartment from them. So in regards to utilities, utilities may be an extra cost. I would say most apartment complexes, you pay for your rent separately, and then you have your utilities separately. Now, the utilities typically will include water. Some apartment complexes, you will have a meter and you will pay exactly how much water you are using. Some apartment complexes is not exactly to what you use. It's they do a system where it's kind of based on what everybody uses, and then they kind of like divide it up that way. In terms of electricity or light, like lighting your space, maybe you could either have electricity or gas. So that's something that you'd have to ask the apartment complex, so you can find out what type of a provider you need. Maybe an apartment complex might have a certain company that you have to use. Typically, I find that not to be the case. Typically, you can find your own electricity provider when it comes on to electricity, because there's so many different companies that provide electricity. It's considered like a private business. I know maybe in some countries that could be considered a state responsibility to take care of that, but in America and in Texas, that's considered a private thing. So there are so many different companies. They will have different prices that you can look into to decide maybe which companies offer you would be most interested in. Internet service, okay, and as we're living in 2021, going into 2022, we know internet, it probably is the first thing I should have mentioned, right? Most people do typically get internet. It's not required for you to have internet, but I think a lot of people enjoy having some kind of a Wi-Fi access in their space. And typically, once again, you should be able to choose from several different providers for this. And then you can research that. You can, look into the different companies, see what they're offering you, and then kind of decide, based on a cost, maybe also whatever other needs that you think you may have. TV service, that typically is something that you can get along with the internet, because for the most part, if you do want to watch the television, I would say, if you just plug the TV into the wall, it's going to be hard to just kind of pick up channels. So most people have either cable or some kind of internet service so that they can make full use of their television. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So how do you select an apartment? Once again, the decision is completely up to you. Many students would love for us at ICP to give them the name of an apartment and send them and say, hey, go here to this place. And as much as we have our own personal opinions, this is a personal choice that you will have to make. Because when it comes on to off-campus housing, it is completely up to the management companies of those apartment complexes for how they will run their apartment complexes. So unfortunately, we cannot really give you specifically certain names because it's just a personal choice that you will have to make, and you will have to do your research as to what suits you. But in general, here are some more things for you to look into apart from maybe the amenities. So you want to research your area. Here are some suggested websites that maybe could help you with this process. Apartmentratings.com. Apartments.com, that's a pretty good website to search for apartments, and you can also find reviews of those apartments. Rent.com and rentersvoice.com. So it's research, research, research. And this is not just because you are an international student. This is for anybody looking for an apartment. You would want to do your research unless you know somebody that, you know, stays there or lives in that apartment or has lived, and you can get firsthand experience. If not, you will have to do research to find information out. Now, so once again, these are just some suggested websites. If you find other reputable websites that you feel like you can trust, please go ahead and use those. Use whatever you feel is, you know, reputable and information that you can trust, I would say. Okay, another thing to look into when you're looking for an apartment is looking for the crime statistics. So finding public data and crime mapping for your neighborhoods could be a helpful resource. You can check the crime statistics for the neighborhood on a city's web page. And we have here listed just 2 examples of some nearby cities. So we have Richardson, which is the city that UT Dallas is in. That is their website, core.net. And then Dallas City, if you go to dallascityhall.com, you can look for the crime statistics and the different neighborhoods, right? Because you can have a city, but then different neighborhoods may have different crime statistics all within the neighborhoods. So just some examples of 2 cities that you can look into. If there are other cities that you're planning to move to, then a quick Google search, if you're planning to go to Plano, you could Google Plano City crime statistics, or if you're going to go to Addison City crime statistics. I would say Google should bring you some reliable information, as long as you find a credible website that you can trust. Looking for pictures online. This is such a great tip, because sometimes, you know, you have the image that the apartment puts online, but then you can also have images that the residents post online, right? So the residents, they can post online and they can show you and say, this is what the area looks like, or this is what the apartment looks like. So that can also be a good way to get information. And also, if you are able to visit the apartment complex in person, that really is a great way. Because sometimes when you go by yourself, you put yourself in the space, it just kind of shows you that, hey, this is either, you know, what exactly what I thought it was going to be, or this is not what I thought it was going to be. So if you're able to go, I would say bring a friend with you, you know, bring a friend or 2 with you. Sometimes it's good to get, you know, some extra opinions to kind of, so that make sure that what you are seeing is what other people are seeing. Okay, so let's move on to the next point about the Comet Cruiser. Now, the Comet Cruiser is a part of the public transportation system. It is basically, it is UTD's bus. And there are many apartment complexes that are on the route. You can view the Comet Cruiser route on the Transportation Services webpage, and that is the website that we have right there for you. So once again, this is basically UTD's bus, and there are lots of apartment complexes. So if you do not have a personal vehicle, then taking the Comet Cruiser or the 883 bus is going to be a great way for you to be able to get around to classes, to your shopping, and just to basically live life. Okay, the next point, off-campus housing. So we do have an off-campus housing site that it's not affiliated with UT Dallas, but it is something that UT Dallas does. We share with students because we know, once again, a lot of students live off campus, and so we're just trying to help them, provide them with as much information as possible. So the off-campus housing webpage allows you to see the availability of apartments that are near the campus. Moving on to the next point, cultural student organizations. Now, in the past, typically, there are some student organizations that were able to volunteer to host students on a temporary basis. However, due to the COVID pandemic, they are not able to do so. And so I know a lot of students might have heard of this service, which was, generously done by students in the past. However, due to COVID and wanting to ensure the safety of incoming students and current students and other volunteers, the service is not available. So to that effect, the University of Texas at Dallas once again understands the importance of finding housing and having housing, right? Because you have to have some place to live. So a lot of effort was put into creating a website, which if you go to utdallas.edu/ICP/housing, you can get information for what options you have that is near to the campus. I believe most of the options there are within a 3-mile radius of the campus, so it's actually pretty close by. So once again, that would be the place that we suggest for you to go to look into. And on the website, you will be presented with several options. So once again, it's your personal choice that you have to make, right? But we suggest for you to look into that website. Once again, it is utdallas.edu/ICP/housing. And you'll be able to see what options are available close to the campus, what amenities they have, what the costs are, etc., so that you can make your decision for either a temporary place or if you find something that is more permanent, whatever you are looking for. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so you did all of that research. You went to utdallas.edu/ICP/housing. You researched the information that was there, and let us say that you found an apartment that you really liked the apartment. You liked the reviews that you saw online. You liked the price and everything, the amenities that are there. So now what do you do? So once you find an apartment, you will need to submit an application to the apartment complex. So the application is going to ask for information about you. You have to apply to be able to live there. You can call, email, or check the webpage for more information. Now, some apartments do require a non-refundable application fee. And some may even require an additional fee if you do not have a social security number. I know some students coming in do not have a social security number, but some apartments, typically when you apply, there is information about you. They'll do like a background check or some kind of a search, and a social security number is what allows them to be able to search your history. And so because you don't have this history and you don't have this number, unfortunately, sometimes they do ask for this additional fee, because I think in their mind, they're kind of taking on a risk because you do not have this history. But nevertheless, a lot of students, this is the case, and they just pay this additional fee if that is the case that needs to be paid. Because if you don't have a social security number, then there's kind of no way around that. Most apartments do not accept cash payments. And they may ask for, so you just have to ask them how it is that they want your payment. Sometimes they may take a money order, or maybe they will take a check maybe, but nevertheless, we do recommend to not, walk around with quite a bit of cash on you. What is quite a bit of cash? It could be a relative term. I would say hundreds, if you're carrying hundreds of dollars on you, maybe close to $1,000. That might be a little bit too much to walk around with in America. I would say most people don't walk around with that much money. So just kind of be careful with that. Okay, so we have submitted our application. And then the apartment, what they will do is they will review your application, and then they will make a decision and let you know, yes, we will accept you to be a tenant here. So importantly, of course, you will need to read your lease and sign your lease. Now, very important, you should have a lease. Okay, I know some people are very kind of loosey-goosey with their negotiations, and they just want to do a handshake with someone and shake somebody's hand and say, this is what the agreement is going to be. get it in writing. Okay, make sure that there's some kind of a written lease, because it will protect you and it will also protect the landlord as well. So make sure to read your lease before you sign it. Okay, this is an important document, so make sure that you are reading it thoroughly. Make sure that you are aware of any rules or any restrictions that you must abide by. You want to review the start date. So basically the start date is, you know, the day that you can start occupying your space. And then also the end date, which would be the date that you will need to leave your space. And make sure that they match, okay? And that they are what you discussed with the manager or with the, you know, with the apartment complex. So if they say to you verbally and say, oh yes, you can move in, you know, January the 7th, but then in the lease it says you are moving in January the 10th. Well, that's not good, because those two things don't match. And whatever is on paper is whatever by law will be upheld. So just make sure that you are paying attention to those things. So read the lease carefully. Are there any rules in there? Are there any termination fees? So for example, if you decide to leave the apartment, will they charge you some kind of a fee because you decided to leave? So it's your responsibility to read the lease. And if you don't understand anything, you want to make sure to ask your landlord. Ask them whatever questions you have, any concerns you have, ask them and make sure that those things are clarified. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we spoke about utilities earlier. We actually even kind of showed you a breakdown as to what utilities may include. So let us go some more into that. So for the most part, I would say a lot of apartments tend to use electricity, some type of a natural gas or some type of a electricity for their apartment. A very helpful website is choosetexaspower.org, and this website will ask you maybe like for your zip code or the specific street address that you're going to live on, and then it will show you all the different electricity providers that are in that area and the different rates that they charge. So it might get into a whole bunch of things that you've never seen before. It might show you, you know, it charges, you know, 7 cents per kilowatt, or, you know, and some of them might have offers and say they might have like free weekends, you know, on the weekends, whatever you use is free. So there'll be a lot of different hours. So you want to make a lot of different offers. I apologize. So you'll definitely want to read through the offers carefully. So electricity is essential for you to set up. There are many different companies, as I said, once again. So some things to consider when arranging electricity, because once again, electricity is something that you will need to set up. Okay, the apartment is not just going to have it there running for you to use. You will need to set it up. So some things to consider when arranging electricity is the time of day that you will be home. Do they need you to be home in order to set it up? And maybe they don't. Sometimes they can just do it remotely and you don't physically have to be there and let someone into your home. So, but it's better to ask them so that you'll know for sure. How often you will be in your apartment, right? So some people, you know, once again, depending on your budget, etc., and maybe how much electricity you think you're going to use, that could impact the plan that you choose, right? The electricity plan that you choose. How many electronic devices are you going to be using? You know, is your apartment going to be, you know, a gamer's hub or something, and you need to use a lot of data? So all of those things you will need to consider. And once again, look into the fine print of those offers that are there for you. You know, maybe they'll say, oh, you have a free, you know, free weekends. What does that mean? What does a free weekend mean? And when does the weekend start? Is it Saturday through Sunday? Is it Friday through Sunday? So just read through the fine prints and know what you are getting into. And if you have roommates as well, you want to bring them into the discussion to see, you know, if they agree with the plan that maybe you're interested in, so everyone can be on the same page. Okay, now let's talk about internet. Once again, internet is not a requirement, but I would say most people typically have internet in their home. Some common providers are Spectrum, AT&T, and Verizon. Not all providers are available everywhere, so you will have to look for the area that you're living in and see, for example, if the particular company that you're choosing, if they service the area that you are in. So once again, Google is our friend, right? So you can look online to find out what is available and to search for different plans that they may have. And once again, you want to talk with your roommates to make sure that everyone is on board with what is going on. Now, what are some other utilities? You may need to pay for cable. Some people do get cable TV. And once again, Google will be your friend. Some of those internet providers, maybe they will come with a cable TV package situation, and that is something that you can ask them about. Some other utilities would include gas. Maybe some apartments, they have, if they utilize gas or maybe the stove, then that could be a separate cost for that. Water and trash removal are considered utilities. And so, it just depends. Sometimes you have to pay an additional fee for that. So once again, you just have to read your lease, and your lease will say what is in there. Or before you sign the lease, you can just also ask as well about water and trash. These services are typically provided by the city that you live in, and so they may be included in your rent, but sometimes it is a separate service from your rent, and therefore it is a separate cost for that. So once again, just asking questions before you sign anything so you can know exactly what your costs are going to be. Okay, so next up we are going to talk about banking, and I'm going to call Rodolfo Hernandez for him to, Rodolfo Hernandez Guerrero, for him to share with us on banking and other information. Rodolfo.
Thank you, Tamara. Tamara West, thank you very much. That has been very, very helpful information. And again, welcome, almost welcome to UT Dallas, to the UT Dallas community. And now let's talk about banking. This is an essential piece in terms of the daily routine here on campus, because in most cases, we don't really carry cash anymore. In most cases, we bring the debit card, the credit card, and that is the way we operate in the daily routine in terms of purchasing and doing any financial transaction. Banks typically here in the United States have a variety of savings or checking accounts. They have very large portfolios of options, and each one of these banks may have different requirements and benefits. So that implies that you need to do some research to ensure that the accounts that are reflected in the web page of these banks may have the information, and you may understand that information that will best serve your needs. Our recommendation is that you call, you visit, or you even email the bank, the staff of this bank, to get further clarifications and to answer any of the questions that you may have. Most banks have a staff available, certainly even in the circumstances of the pandemic, COVID pandemic, you will find staff in these banks, in the branches around the campus, and to discuss the options and to help you. There is a culture about serving international students. These banks know about you, know about the meaningful and significant presence of international students in this campus, and they really do a major effort to really meet your needs and to serve you, to ensure that you manage resources, financial resources, in a safe way. You should be able to find out what you need to bring with you to open a new account to these banks. And typically, you may need to bring an ID card, and that could be, for example, your passport. And if you have a Social Security, US Social Security, we highly recommend you to bring that card as well with you and to present that information, your ID and your Social Security number, to the banking staff. But if you don't have the Social Security, certainly you can bring any other type of identification. For example, you can bring your I-20 or any other immigration document, and that could be very helpful to open an account here in any of the branches around the campus. You can always call the bank in advance and check with what documents you will need for opening the account. Some popular banks around the UT Dallas campus are Wells Fargo, which in fact we have even an ATM machine here on campus, and other banks around the UT Dallas campus are Chase and Bank of America. Next slide. There are many different types of banks accounts that you can open, and checking accounts are one of the most typical ones here for, again, for the daily routine on campus and for anybody here in the north of Texas. Those checking accounts are very helpful for shopping, for paying bills, making a rent payment, and other expenses. Most checking accounts don't accrue interest and will be, in most cases, connected to a debit card. This is a card that you will use to make payments at stores, shop online, or withdraw money from any ATM. You can order checks from your bank if you prefer to write checks for things. That is becoming an old-fashioned way to pay things. Checks is more common to use only the debit card, which may be linked to your checking account. Saving account, that's another good way another good helpful account. In that case, you can save some money over the long term. They usually accrue some interest, but are not usually connected to a debit card. Many savings accounts have limitations for how often you can withdraw money. So in advance, you can contact or discuss the different options for saving accounts with banking staff. Credit cards allow you to pay for items throughout the month and then make a payment on the expenses you accrued. You will be given a credit limit, certainly, which is the most you are allowed to have charged at any given time. You will be charged interest if you keep a balance on your account after the payment period, after the end of the payment period. Usually that is the end of the month. Interest on credit card is typically high. So the next slide, please. Now let's talk about cell phone. It's important you keep communication with your family and with your friends, close friends, and certainly cell phone is really an essential tool in the daily routine here in the United States, and certainly for the UT Dallas community. You will need a cell phone to stay connected. So you will find many options, many providers that they will be presenting very competitive plans. But so that means that you should ensure that you look to the different plans, the information, the specifics of these plans, because ultimately you will be signing a contract, at least with them. Take a look at the amount of minutes that will be available in each one of these plans and the charges and limits for data use and messaging, of course. If you need international calling, that will be something that you will need to consider as well to be incorporated, to be included in your cell phone plan. Other items that you to consider are for instance, how much mobile hotspot data you will have, for instance, what type of devices the plan may offer, and certainly the length of time of the contract. And if applicable, any restrictions that could be in place for that specific plan. Current students will have some great advice and recommendations if you contact your a cultural organization here on campus or other friends for suggestions. You may have some network here in Dallas, perhaps, or in the United States, and they can provide you great tips, great advices to really ensure that you identify the best plan, cell phone plan based for your needs, and to really ensure that you are in contact with your family and your friends. Popular cell phones providers in the area and in general in the United States are Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint, but there are many more. You can typically find a retail location for your chosen provider, or you may be able to set up the cell phone plan online as well. So you will have many options, but again, research, and as Tamara has mentioned, to really ensure that you have full information for informed decisions. Now, next slide, please. Getting around the campus. And right here in this slide, you can see more or less, I guess, is a reflection of the Comet Cruiser route. And that's really helpful for you to have the basis in terms of your geographic orientation around the campus, and you based on your potential setting, housing setting in the next few days. The ones you here in Dallas, you can go around certainly not only around the campus and the surrounding area of the campus, but as well beyond in the city of Richardson and Dallas and the whole metroplex, which includes Dallas Fort Worth. We can say that we have here in Dallas a great public transportation options, and the campus bus is the Comet Cruiser, which is the route 883. 883, which is a UTD bus system that goes to and from campus on several different routes. There are many shops, restaurants, and other places that are on the Comet Cruiser route. The best part, it is free. Yes, as long as you present your ID, you don't have to pay anything for using the UT Dallas bus system, the Comet Cruiser Route 883. So you can view the schedule and map online, and here we have the site, the website of the Comet Cruiser, which basically you go to utdallas.edu/services/transit/cruiser. If you're looking to travel outside of the UT Dallas area, you can use the DART, which is basically the public transportation system here in the Dallas, and that includes the metro, the train certainly, and bus system here in Dallas. And as a UTD student, you can get a free pass once you register for classes. That's one of the benefits for being a UT Dallas student. You can view the schedule and routes on the webpage, certainly DART's webpage, and to apply for a free pass visit for the UT Dallas Transportation Service page, in the UT Dallas Transportation Service page. If you plan to drive while you're here, that means that you are driving a car, you will need to apply for your driver's license. It's really relevant that you have this documentation in place and you have a safe driving, meeting the driving requirements of the state of Texas. You can visit the Texas Department of Public Safety webpage to apply for a driver's license. You will need to take a reading test and a driving test. Again, 2 tests, a writing test and a driving test. You also need to purchase a parking pass if you plan to park on campus, and parking passes can be purchased online through the webpage listed for more information here in this slide. Next slide, please. Now, food, certainly, we want to ensure that you are eating well and you have the appropriate proteins and minerals and vitamins for yourself, for your brain, to be successful, to be operating on a daily basis, and certainly to be successful in your classes. And the good thing is that we have great options on campus and off campus in terms of food. Now that you have a general sense to get around the campus, we can talk about groceries. In many cases, you even can find your home community, your home country groceries here in the Metroplex. There are many popular stores along the Comet Cruiser route, which make it very easy for you to get your groceries. Tom is one of the most traditional grocery stores that's basically next to the campus, and this it's a shop, Tom. It has a bakery, has a pharmacy, has even a bank inside, and certainly you can find many basic items that you may need for your daily routine. As well, you will find very accessible from the campus, from the UT Dallas campus, to the stores Walmart and Target, which are very popular because they include basically everything: groceries, clothes, pharmacies, furniture, and other household items. And these stores are very competitive in terms of prices. In many instances, you will find great savings. They will be promoting many opportunities for you to purchase great things for very, very competitive prices. They tend to be low. The prices tend to be low with respect to other similar stores. And there's another one that is next to the campus. Is called Sprouts. This is a store that offers organic or natural food, but the prices could be a little bit higher, of course, because they are more natural, they're organic, but certainly they can meet the expectations of somebody that has more exclusive preferences in terms of a daily diet. A few shopping tips that we want to share with you. If you find up you restore your shop of preference, we highly recommend to download the application of the grocery store, because in that case you can open an account and then you can receive coupons for discounts, and you can maximize the use of your resources, your monthly budget for specific discounts in these stores. Also, talk to your roommates. If you're by any chance you're sharing your space with other students or with other colleagues for sharing to better an apartment, for instance, for example, you can talk with them and you can share some of the expenses of these groceries and duties, even utilities. That will help you to maximize your budget and to really have more room to do other things around campus and in the metroplex, including some more social activities and cultural activities. Also, if you purchase things in volume, that will give you the advantage for getting a discount. That doesn't mean that you're going to consume everything at the same time, but you really you can be strategic and to be thinking ahead, and you have the resources. You can invest for purchasing, let's say, bottles of water or refreshments or cereals for supply of 3 or 4 months. If that will be the case, based on volume, you may obtain better discounts in any of these stores, especially in places like Walmart or Target. Given the pandemic, in most of these stores are requiring for the customer to wear a mask. So be ready with your mask, bring your mask, and expect it to respect the guidelines of these stores in terms of enhancing public health. And don't forget to take into consideration how you will transfer from the campus, from your apartments to any of these stores to be able to do a successful shopping. So that means that you need really to go to the website of DART or the UT Dallas bus schedule to really ensure that you are being strategic to be able to take the bus at a specific time, do your shopping within that window time, and to be able to return based on that schedule of the bus to your apartment. Next slide. Home country food, of course. Once you're here, in many of you you may be facing at some point homesickness, and that's perfectly fine. That implies that you may want to eat a little bit the original flavor of your home community or your home country, and that's perfectly fine. The good news is that you will find many stores around Richardson and around the UT Dallas campus where you can find specific shops, stores for groceries from India, from Asia, from Mexico, and from many other parts of the world. This is basically international grocery stores in the area, and a few popular ones are Patel Brothers and India Bazaar for Indian food. H Mart has a variety of food from Asia, such as Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and Vietnamese groceries. Fiesta is another one. It's a large grocery chain that offers Mexican food. And Central Market, which is basically 5-10 minutes from the campus. Central Market is an organic grocery store that offers foods from around the world. However, the prices are higher than most grocery stores in Central Market. Next slide. And restaurants. I really think that once in a while we really want to spoil ourselves, and we deserve to be served and to find a good restaurant to really enhance the enjoyment of our routine here on campus and during the time that we're pursuing the academic program. Of course, you don't want to cook every night, so there are many delicious restaurants in our area to try. Remember that in the United States, we tip for your server. It's at least 15% tip, and something that you need to include in your budget, please. 15%, 20% of your bill will be enough to tip your server. And certainly some restaurants are providing curbside pickup due to the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, but many other restaurants are open, and you can be there indoors or outdoors, and to be able to enjoy the good portfolio menus that they may offer with many different flavors and options, not only in terms of US food, but also in terms of ethnic and international menus. You may want as well food delivery. Sometimes you may call in advance the restaurant, and some of these restaurants may deliver the order to your apartment. You can order via the web page, or maybe you can call the restaurant in advance. And certainly through the food delivery application, in many of these restaurants may have the application. We'll really recommend to download the application, and that will be a favorite restaurant, and to obtain coupons, discounts for the food. When popular applications for restaurants around the Richardson, the Metroplex are DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats, and Favors, among others. They may charge a fee for a delivery, and in addition, you should tip the person who is delivering the food. 10% in this case, that will be sufficient, will be fine for as a way to reflect your gratitude for the person that is delivering, who is delivering the food from the restaurant. Next slide, please. The other piece is that you will find many restaurants along the Comet Cruiser route. There are so many restaurants, and they are delicious. I think you will find many food in terms of U.S. Flavors, but as well many international flavors. And the good part about Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex is that there are many restaurants, and these restaurants are very diverse in terms of their menus. So you will be really enjoying great prices for the good menus of many of the restaurants across the Metroplex Dallas Fort Worth area. Some of the popular places for the restaurants that are around UTD, that are along the Comet Cruiser route, you will see in this slide. And certainly you can Google the map. It's a great resource to find restaurants as well, to identify what you want to try around the campus. And you can see here Mexican options, Texan options like barbecue, certainly hamburgers, good hamburgers, Italian food, and Asian food. Next slide, please. Well, now it's time for your questions. It's time for us to be able to answer any of your doubts or concerns that you may have about living here in Dallas, living on campus, and ensuring that you have the tools and information to ensure a smooth transition and a successful arrival to UT Dallas campus and to the UT Dallas surrounding area. Back to you, Tamara, to lead the questions and answer session.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo, for sharing that important information. As Rodolfo just mentioned, the chat function is actually now open. So if you would like to post your questions in the chat, feel free to go ahead. I also posted some helpful links in the chat. I posted a link for the Comet Cruiser route. so that way you can see, you can find out the route that the Comet Cruiser, which is the UT Dallas bus, takes. And then maybe also, you know, if you're trying to look into an apartment or a place to stay, whether temporary or permanent, you could see if the place that you're looking for may be along that route. I also put a link to the New Student Guide, which is a booklet that we create that is a compilation of many different resources, not just having to do with housing and things like that, but we also share about other offices. So it's a great general resource. We recommend for you to check it out. I also put the link for the UTD housing website that is specifically related to kind of the ICP webpage and the international students that are coming in and the needs that they have and that they're looking for. So you can check that out. I also posted a link for Google Maps, which really honestly I think is going to be very, very helpful. Google Maps can help you once again if you're trying to map out a route. And also, you can also look for apartment reviews on Google. So if there's an apartment that you find, and let's say you type the name of the apartment in, people typically post reviews on Google. In America, maybe I know in other countries it might not be a thing, but I know in America people will post reviews on Google. So the Google can be very helpful to find apartment reviews, and it can also help you, you know, kind of plan your transportation mode. If you're traveling by car, if you need to travel by DART, which is the public transportation system, as Rodolfo mentioned, or, you know, some people, or if maybe you need to get an Uber or, you know, like a ride share system, those options are also on there as well. Google Maps, that is. So I would say Google Maps is a really good resource. I also have the link there for the ISSO office. I know that some students are coming in. Maybe they have some immigration related questions that they might want to ask about, you know, I don't know, I-20s or embassy appointments, etc. That would be the ISSO office. And I also put a link in the chat for academic advisors. If you do not know who your academic advisor for your program is, you can find them at that link if there's a question that you have that really needs to get answered, because it is coming towards the end of this fall session. We are going to be going into a winter break. So the campus is going to be closed, I think December the 23rd, I apologize. So there will be quite a bit of services that, you know, if you're trying to access after December 23rd, between December 23rd and, you know, January 2nd might not be able to access. So hopefully those links will be helpful, and you can get your questions answered. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. Not really. Okay, there's one question that Rodolfo already answered, but I will just go ahead and read it out aloud just in case there are other people that do have that same question as well. It says, do we need to pay for electricity and water if we're going to stay in accommodations on campus? That's a very good question. Rodolfo posted to check the UTD housing website, and that would be the correct answer. So let me see if, actually, I will post the website in the chat for you. So once again, much like we spoke about off campus, if you are going to be signing an apartment lease or a contract, then it is helpful to read all of what you're getting along with your lease. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume and say, oh, my friend stays in this apartment, you know, in another maybe apartment, and so I assume that everything is going to be the same. Different apartment companies could have different options that they offer to you. So you want to read the lease that you have. But I put in the chat the link for University Housing. You can visit their webpage. They have the information all there that tells you everything. If you do have further questions, you can always email them. Their email is housing@utdallas.edu. So you can email them and ask them, you know, what all comes along with the options on campus. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. I don't see any other questions. So once again, this is your time to ask questions that you may have, things that are on your mind, maybe even things that you have asked your friends about, but maybe you kind of want to double check. This can be a useful time to do that. In the meantime, I would like to share something though, and this is in regards to transportation. I have had students in the past ask about riding a bicycle. You know, some students, you know, maybe they're trying to live a healthier life. Maybe they just love the outdoors or something. I don't know. And you know, maybe they want to ride a bicycle, you know, ride a bike. I know in some cultures it's very popular for people to either ride a bicycle or to ride a bike, you know, a motorbike. I would say in terms of that for transportation, to be very, very careful about choosing that as your primary mode of transportation. And the reason why I say this is because in order for you to ride a bicycle, right, you have to have a place to ride it. Most of, I would say Texas, most of the United States, but I guess we can focus on Texas, this kind of DFW area, Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's not quite set up for that. I have seen people riding bicycles, you know, they have like maybe a bike lane or something. So there's a road and then there's like a bike lane. But that I don't see that a lot. Or sometimes people just ride their bicycles on the sidewalk. But the thing is that sometimes the route or the path that you're trying to take isn't always continuously paved for a bike path. So, you know, you could ride your bicycle and, you know, you have the sidewalk, but then the sidewalk ends and then now you have the road and then now you have to go into the road. So it can be an interesting thing to navigate. I think I have seen some students riding their bicycles, but I would say just be very careful because I believe as a cyclist, you would need to follow the rules of the road, the same rules that a car person follows. But you don't have a car. You know, a car is a very different vehicle. So you can ride in the road as, you know, as what the cars drive in, but you don't have a car. You have a bicycle. So I would say I would think a lot about it. If you want to go to Google Maps and see if you can find a bicycle path. But I would say for the most part, it's not typically viable because you'll be transitioning between, you know, riding a bicycle, then maybe the path, the path ends for you and then you have to be in the road, then you have to, you know, switch over. So just something for you to think about. But hey, you can bring your bicycle if you want to, and maybe you can ride it in a place like a park or something like that. But as a primary mode of transportation, I would be a bit hesitant to do that here in Texas. Okay, let's see. More questions? Well, we have a question. Thank you, Rodolfo, for answering that. There's a question here asking about paying health insurance. When do we need to pay for health insurance? So once again, so that the health insurance question, health insurance and the health center is actually managed by the Student Health Center. So there's an office called the Student Health Center, and they take care of all the kind of physical health needs of students, including the student health insurance plan. They can give you all the details about health insurance plan, payment, etc. There's an office specifically for that. So if anyone else has that same question, you can email the health center. Their email is health. So the word health, CEN, C-E-N. So it's all one word, health, C-E-N @utdallas.edu. And you can ask them specifically this question about when the payment is due for your health insurance, because as coming in as international students, you are required to have health insurance coverage. And whether it is that you make use of the UT Dallas health insurance plan, which you'll automatically be on, but if you do have another policy that is equal to or maybe better than UT Dallas's plan, then you just need to submit a waiver. There's like a form you can submit to the health center to, ask them, hey, this is like another plan that I have. And then the health center will review it, and then they'll make the decision on whether you can, whether you still need to, whether you need to be on the UT Dallas health insurance, or if the other plan that you have is fine for you to keep and you don't need to do that. So there's a lot of information to review, a lot of things. So the health center, the student health center, would be the office to answer all of that information for you. Okay, let's see. Any other questions that you may have? If I could mention this, on our website, we do have some checklists. We have a pre-arrival checklist and a post-arrival checklist. So I know a lot of students are pretty close to, many people have already packed their luggage and, everything ready to get over here. And maybe they're still wondering, oh, did I prepare for everything? Is there anything that I'm missing? Well, we definitely suggest for you to check out our pre and post arrival checklist. So that way you can be confident in yourself and know and say, okay, I'm on track, or maybe there's something that you see and you say, oh, there's like this other thing I need to take care of. So I'm going to put the link for it in the chat, so that can help you with your planning, and in your preparation, right? In your preparation for your time here at UT Dallas, you can know if you are on track or if there's anything else that you may need to take care of. So that could be helpful.
Tamara, the checklists are already there in the.
Oh, in the chat.
Yeah, in the chat. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Rodolfo. Thank you. Okay, so questions. We spoke about a lot of things. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. We shared about the on-campus housing, kind of how that works, off-campus housing. So, just kind of to summarize, just make sure that you are reading your lease. Make sure that you're asking questions if anything is not clear to you. If there's something that's not clear, just make sure to ask someone. There could be a word, sometimes, there is American English, but, sometimes as a speaker of a British English myself, sometimes there's a bit of a difference in what does a word mean, in this culture versus how I'm used to it being utilized. So if you have any questions whatsoever, it's better to be clear, because once you sign a contract, the apartment, they're expecting you to carry out your obligations as to what you signed to. Much the same as you would expect them to carry out their obligations for what they're supposed to do, they're expecting for you to do the same. Let's see. Okay.
Tamara, may I share, in alignment with your comments, and I think to summarize a little bit the part of the general sentiment that we are communicating to the new international students here in the United States, and specifically in Texas, the relevance of individual proaction for pursuing individual decisions is part of the culture. So if we go back and see and listen to the message of Tamara and the information I was providing myself to all of you, you will see a lot of this emphasis. You need to be proactive, to have the access to the information. So in that case, you will be able to pursue an informed decision for housing, for utilities, for banking, for restaurants, and many other items, options, services, and institutions to enhance the enjoyment and the success of your academic routine here at UT Dallas. So be ready for that. And we're saying this because sometimes we see many international students coming from, let's say, Latin America, and in Latin America, we may tend to be, more reliant on the institutions to provide us guidance and even sometimes even decisions. But that's not the case specifically in the United States, and specifically in the case of Texas, the state of Texas. So it's expected that you will be proactive and you will have that strong sense of curiosity to ask many questions, to do your research, as Tamara has been mentioning to you, recommending to you, and to really ensure that you will be selecting your best choice based on your circumstances and based on your capacities, to really ensure that you will have the right apartment in the right location, in a safe place, and with a close to the restaurant that you want, etc., etc. So be ready for that, and certainly don't be shy. You be proactive and ask those questions. And if you don't find certain answers for those questions, please contact ICP team. We'll be here to help you, and we'll be happy to assist you for any of your decisions. Thank you, Tamara.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rodolfo, for emphasizing that. And that's so true. The point of, doing your research. We know that students are going to ask their friends. We know that students are going to ask people who are already here so that they can kind of get the viewpoint of somebody else's experience. And we're not saying to not to do that, but we're saying to also, look into it for yourself as well, because at the end, when you sign that lease, the responsibility is on you. Okay, so we have a question here in the chat. It says, hi, I need a clarification regarding electricity. Say my lease period for the apartment is 6 months, but most of the electricity plans are 12 months. In case I take a 12-month plan, will I be able to end it after 6 months? Will there be any extra charge if I do so, considering I am shifting to another apartment after the first 6 months? Okay, so basically I think from what I understand from this is that this person has a lease for 6 months, but the electricity plan goes for 12 months. So the question is, will they be able to end it early? So what it sounds like you're saying is that if you have signed for an electricity plan that is longer than what your lease is, then you would be ending your electricity plan early. Now, it is better to, and I know it may sound like it, but it's better to contact your electricity provider to ask them specifically, because once again, there are so many different electricity companies, so many. You have no idea how many there are, so many, and they have different plans, right? One plan might be called this, and these are all the terms of the plan. Another plan is called this, and these are the terms. So really, it's kind of hard for me to tell you without knowing exactly what plan you are on. But I can give you some general tips of advice. If you have signed for something for a certain period of time, they are going to expect you to fulfill that full period of time that you have. It's just the expectation, because you told them that they're going to be getting money from you for 12 months. And now you're trying to tell them and say, actually, it's not 12 months, it's 6, right? So they're not, you are actually changing your contract that you agreed to. So once again, there are some companies I know, they may have like an early termination fee that they might charge. They may say, okay, well, if you need to leave, that's fine, but you may have to pay this. And then some companies do not. Another thing that you could look into is if you are transferring to a place, it sounds like you are transferring to another place, you can't just transfer, possibly, you could transfer your lease to another apartment. So for example, let's just say I'm moving out of my apartment to another apartment complex, but you want to keep the same electricity company. Well, then all you have to do, possibly you could do, is just transfer that and say, call your electricity company and say, hey, I'm moving to another address. Can you just transfer my electricity to that new place? But once again, without knowing the details of and the terms and conditions, right? The terms and conditions, those two things go together a lot in America. So without knowing the specific terms and conditions of your electricity plan, it's kind of hard for me to say. So I would just call them and ask them. Like, there is no And maybe if I could speak on that as well, you can call and ask for information because you're the customer. You know, nothing should be held against you. I know maybe sometimes culturally, you know, sometimes we can be shy to ask certain things, you know, maybe for fear of retribution or something. But you can just ask because you are a customer and it is a plan that you already agreed to anyway. So just ask them and say, hey, you know, I have this plan. You know, call their customer service. I have this plan. You know, what if I needed to leave? We can put it hypothetical, right? What if I needed to leave 6 months early? Like, what would be the whatever? So you can just ask general information. You're not telling them that you're doing anything, you know, and they're not going to do anything back to you, you know, because this is just general information. So that's how I would suggest going about it. But those are some possible things that you could do. Either be charged a fee, maybe they have a cancellation fee or termination fee. I don't know what terminology they might use, or if you could transfer it to the other place that you're going to, then you can avoid that possibly. But once again, you know, speaking with the customer service representatives and asking them, that would be the best way to know. But that is a great question because, and actually, if I could hop over to the apartment leasing, you know, that thing could be the very same thing. If you lease an apartment and you sign a lease for 12 months and you want to leave after 6 months, that generally will not be a very great thing for you financially. Typically, apartments have some kind of a fee you have to pay, I mean, early cancellation fee, early termination fee. You know, they will, or, you know, they might charge you like a flat fee if you want to leave early, or they might say you have to pay, you can leave, but you still have to pay the rest of the rent. So once again, only, you know, you have to see the details of the terms and conditions of the specific agreement that you signed. But thank you so much for that question. That actually was a great question to ask for other people that might be wondering the same thing. And, you know, I would say to you, you know, check again on that website that we gave you for electricity plans. You know, I mean, yes, I guess it could be that there are only 12-month plans out there. So the website, once again, is choosetexaspower.org. Typically, I mean, I have been on that website. I have seen 6-month plans. Now, sometimes maybe the 6-month plan may be more expensive. Sometimes that is the case, that a shorter of a plan you have could be more expensive. Sometimes it's not always the case. You have to read the terms and conditions. So, you know, my question is, you know, can we look more to see if there's a 6-month option there? Because typically they do have, you know, I have seen 6-month options, but once again, you know, the industry is the industry. That is the electricity industry, which I do not work in. But I would say I would just look again and see if there is a 6-month option. It might be more, maybe it is more expensive, or it may not be. But, you know, I would say kind of see if you can do some more research and see what you can find. Okay, let's see. That was a great question. Really, really good question to ask. Let's see what else. Do we have any other questions? Okay, here's a question here about, well, this is about tuition, but it says, when will the exact tuition be determined and when will we know? Rodolfo has answered this question. Thank you, Rodolfo. So your exact tuition is going to be determined after you have registered for classes. And a lot of students want to ask ahead of time, what am I going to pay for my classes? We don't know because you haven't registered for them. So, you know, just because you're in this program, telling me the program that you're in is not enough information for us to actually answer this question specifically. So you have to register for your classes, and it's called tuition and fees, because your tuition will be what you pay for classes, but there could be additional fees that are associated with the type of classes that you're doing, maybe certain programs you're in, etc. So that information will be available to you. It will come from the bursar's office. The bursar's office is the office that takes care of paying your tuition and fees. And we actually did an information session with the bursar's office some weeks ago. So if you want to check out our YouTube channel in case you missed that session, or if you want more information about, you know, how to pay for it, when to pay for it, I'm pretty sure she went over that information in the session as well. She did share when the information was going to be available. So I would check that video out. we have it posted on our YouTube channel, which is UT Dallas International. That is our YouTube channel, and the video will be there for paying your tuition and fees. Okay, let's see, another question. Okay, would you have another question? Thank you for sharing that question. It is related, I believe, to transcripts and you know, that's kind of like official matriculation documents. So if there's a question, if anybody else does have this question, then that would be a question for tuition estimate section. Okay. Ooh, okay. Sorry that it just there are a bunch of questions that just came in about tuition. Okay, so okay, here it is. So yeah, so if you're asking about your certificate, you know, diplomas, you know, official paperwork like that, then that information typically gets sent to admissions. It might say enrollment services. I think their email is actually admission@UT Dallas. So that would be something for them. Visiting their website could also be helpful. Just in case, I'm not sure if they have like a processing time or something. Some offices, I know when you email them, you might get an automatic reply that shows kind of their general processing time. But the Office of Admission and Enrollment, they're the office that handles the paperwork and the timeline for it. Of course, right now it's a very busy season. A lot of students are submitting a lot of documentation, etc. So you know, they probably won't be able to process it the next day. I'm going to assume that. So, but they, you know, they are doing the best that they can. I know every office here, we have a certain level of standard quality that we work towards, and we process the queries that come in as soon as we can. You know, in the order that we have received them. So I know that as soon as they have processed your document, they will update you some way, or you'll be made aware that this has been processed, but it could just be that you need to give them some time. I know you said that you sent your documents in on December the 10th, so that was just last Friday. So I think you just may need to give them a bit more time. Because we do have a lot of students coming in for the spring, maybe a bit higher than usual. I think typically, just because of COVID and, you know, kind of how COVID has kind of shaped things to be. So yeah, just I would say give them some more time. And, you know, once again, we posted the link in the chat for the checklist. So if you have done that, then check it off your list. You have sent it in. Okay, you sent it in. What else is there for you to do? Maybe is there something else that you can be working on? But they are working on it. I think it is safe to say that. You just need to probably allow a bit more processing time. So, but thank you for that question. Hopefully that can put your mind at ease and you can, you know, take care of maybe some other tasks that you need to work on. So, but we understand it. Having information is crucial, right? Because that's how we know how to plan. That's how we know how to prepare, and you know, and we know what to expect, right? We need to know what is going to happen next. So, but you're doing a good job if you have submitted your information as soon as you can, you know, and we just have to wait for them to get back to us. So, see if we have any more questions. Okay, well, so we got a thank you from Raghav. You are most welcome. And as I said, it is UT Dallas is the reputable school that it is for a reason. And so we have process, we have you know, we have a certain quality that we make sure that when we're doing things, it's going to be done well, right? We don't want to hurry and do something and then have to backtrack, and that will be more headache for you, the student. So we are working on it, and we are definitely preparing to welcome new students. Staff is preparing for that for the next semester, even community volunteers, campus volunteers. So we know that new students are going to be coming in and needing things to be processed, needing help, you know, questions that they need to be answered, and we're definitely here. Okay, well, I do not see any additional questions in the chat. I think we probably can go ahead and close out. So this is the final call for questions. It's quite a bit of information. You know, we spoke about housing, spoke about transportation, and where you can, you know, deal with your banking, utilities, food. So if this was just all a bit much and you might need to kind of, you know, check it out again, or even share this information with your friends, maybe your family, maybe your sponsors who are sponsoring you. You can share this video with them and say, hey, like, these are all the things that I need. See, I was telling you, I was telling you about all of these things. So share this video with them. Once again, it's going to be available on our YouTube channel within about 48 business hours. And this is the last video that we'll be doing, or the last information session, I should say, as a part of orientation. So if you did miss any that we did previously, then you can catch the recap on our website, you know, just to make sure that you are on track with everything. And once again, I posted the link in the chat for our checklist. So that way you can, you know, make sure that you're on track and let yourself at ease. And also, last but not least, I know I've been talking for a while, I do want to share this. Some students have been asking if there is an incoming, if there is an incoming, like a group chat or something like that. We do not have a group chat for incoming students. But I would say Indian Students Association, or ISA, they do have a chat. And so what I would just recommend for you to do is follow them on social media, either on Facebook or on Instagram. They are UTDISA. And then if you do have questions, if you do want to speak with current students, etc., they are a really great resource. And then, you know, you can connect with students that are currently here. You know, they can maybe be more candid, or maybe give you, you know, different answers as people who are actually experiencing these things that you are going to be experiencing. They can help you out with answers like that. So I suggest for you to check out the Indian Students Association. They're a very helpful resource, and they can help you. They have a WhatsApp group, I believe. And they're not only, you know, they do not only help students that are from India, they help all incoming international students. So now another helpful resource for you to speak with people who are currently here. Okay, well, everyone, we're going to end it right here. I would like to say a big thank you to the ICP team, Jeti, Leticia Zamaripa, Rodolfo Hernandez Guerrero. Thank you to all of us for joining us. Please continue to stay safe wherever you are. Enjoy a break if you do have a winter break wherever you may be. And we will see you in January. Or maybe some of you we might see for orientation on the 15th. And for the rest of you, we will see you next year in 2022. So stay safe, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.